2026 is not the year to announce your plans, it's the year to shock people with your results. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with the truth most people don't like to hear. You don't need to say more, you need to become more. 2026 is not the year to explain yourself. It's not the year to convince people, it's not the year to broadcast every idea, every plan, every move. It's the year to focus on your growth and stay silent. Because here's what most people don't understand: noise feels productive, but it produces nothing. Everyone has opinions, everyone has commentary, everyone has advice for a life they're not living, and every time you listen to the noise, you pay a price. That price is focus, that price is clarity, that price is momentum. Silence is not weakness, silence is leverage. Think about this. The most valuable things grow quietly. Roots don't announce themselves, muscle don't post updates while they're tearing and rebuilding. Seeds don't ask for applause. Underground, they just grow. Your growth doesn't need validation, it needs discipline. Most people talk themselves out of greatness because they want applause before results. But results don't come from talking, they come from repetition, consistency, and uncomfortable obedience to your goals. In 2026, stop telling people what you're going to do, start showing them what you've done. Because when you move in silence, you're not distracted by approval, you're not slowed by criticism, you're not negotiating with doubt, you're working. And let me tell you something powerful. Results are undefeated. No argument can beat them, no hater can erase them, no opinion can cancel them. When you win, explanations become unnecessary. 2026 is a separation year. Some people will be loud and stay the same, others will be quiet and level up. Choose wisely, focus on your growth, protect your vision, execute without announcement, and let success do all the talking. Noise is expensive, and most people don't realize how much they're paying until they're broken focus, broken energy, and broken progress. Every opinion you listen to, every unnecessary conversation you entertain, every argument you feel the need to win comes with a hidden cost. That cost is attention, and attention is the most valuable currency you own. You can always make more money. You can recover from mistakes, but you will never get wasted focus back. Noise steals it quietly, slowly, and consistently. Noise shows up disguised as advice. Everyone has something to say about what you should do, how fast you should move, or why your plan won't work. Most of these voices aren't qualified to speak into your future, yet we still give them access. We listen to people who've never built what we're trying to build, never risked what we're risking, never sacrificed what we're sacrificing. The moment you let their opinions sit in your mind, you start adjusting your pace, doubting your instincts, and questioning decisions that were clear before the noise arrived. Noise also lives in comparison. The constant awareness of what others are doing, posting, buying, achieving. Comparison makes you rush when patience is required and hesitate when boldness is needed. It pressures you to move publicly instead of strategically. It convinces you that visibility equals progress, when in reality, progress often happens where no one is watching. The loud world celebrates announcements, but success is built in execution, not exposure. There's also the noise of your own explanation. Explaining your plans, your goals, your next move gives you a false sense of accomplishment. Talking releases emotional satisfaction without producing results. It tricks your brain into feeling productive while nothing has actually changed. Silence, on the other hand, forces action. When you stop talking, the only way to validate yourself is to perform. Noise drains emotional energy too. Arguments, debates, defending your choices, proving people wrong, all of it burns fuel that could have been invested into growth. Winners don't win more arguments, they win more days. They protect their emotional bandwidth because they understand that clarity beats chaos every time. Calm minds make better decisions, and quiet focus compounds faster than loud effort. The higher you want to go, the quieter you must become. Elevation requires precision, and precision doesn't survive in distraction. Every great builder, thinker, and leader learns this lesson eventually. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves access, and not every thought deserves to be shared. Silence becomes a filter. It separates what matters from what doesn't. When you eliminate noise, something powerful happens. Your intuition gets louder. Your discipline strengthens, your vision sharpens, you stop reacting and start creating. You move with intention instead of impulse. That's when growth accelerates. Not because you're doing more, but because you're wasting less, Noise is expensive. Silence is an investment. And the return on that investment is focus, clarity, and results that speak so loudly you never have to. Explain them. Growth requires privacy because transformation is fragile before it becomes strong. In the early stages of anything meaningful, exposure does more harm than protection. When you put unfinished work in front of unfinished minds, you invite doubt, criticism, and interference into a process that needs space to develop. Privacy gives growth room to breathe. It allows ideas to mature without being rushed, judged, or distorted by outside opinions. Most people fail not because they lack potential, but because they expose their vision too early. They talk about what they're building before the foundation is stable. They seek validation while they should be seeking discipline. The moment too many people know your plans, those plans become vulnerable to influence. You start adjusting your vision to fit expectations. You compromise originality to gain approval. Privacy protects your direction when your confidence is still forming. Real growth is messy. It involves mistakes, setbacks, uncertainty, and experimentation. None of that needs an audience. When you grow in private, you're free to fail without embarrassment and learn without pressure. Public growth forces performance. Private growth allows honesty. You can admit what's not working, recalibrate, and move forward without defending yourself. That freedom accelerates progress. Privacy also strengthens focus. When no one is watching, you're not distracted by reactions. You're not measuring success by likes, comments, or applause. You're measuring it by improvement. Progress becomes internal before it becomes visible. This is where discipline is built when effort continues even without recognition. That kind of discipline lasts. There's power in being underestimated. When people don't know what you're doing, they can't interfere with it. They don't project their fears onto your goals. They don't limit you with their beliefs. Silence keeps your energy contained. Energy that's not leaked through explanation, justification, or defense becomes fuel for execution. Privacy also builds resilience. When you're not emotionally attached to public opinion, setbacks don't feel personal. You're not embarrassed by slow progress or discouraged by temporary failure. You understand that growth isn't linear, and you give yourself permission to evolve at your own pace. That patience is rare, and it's valuable. Look at nature. Seeds don't grow on the surface. They grow underground in darkness and silence. Roots form before anything appears above ground. The deeper the roots, the stronger the structure. Growth that skips privacy lacks stability. It may look impressive early, but it collapses under pressure. When the results finally appear, they feel sudden to everyone else. People call it luck, overnight success, or timing. They never see the private work, the quiet consistency, the invisible sacrifices. That's the reward of privacy results that speak for you while you stay silent. Growth requires privacy because privacy protects the process. It preserves confidence, focus, and integrity. When you honor the quiet seasons, you emerge prepared, grounded, and undeniable. Silence is a strategy, not weakness, because power doesn't announce itself. People who feel the need to constantly speak, explain, or defend are usually trying to convince others of something they haven't yet proven to themselves. True strength is calm. It doesn't rush to respond. It doesn't chase validation. It observes, calculates, and moves with intention. Silence gives you control. When you speak less, you listen more. When you listen more, you see patterns others miss. You recognize motives, timing, and opportunity that noise hides. The quiet person in the room often has the most information, and information is leverage. Talking gives things away. Silence collects data. Most people mistake silence for fear because they don't understand discipline. They think restraint means uncertainty. In reality, restraint is confidence under control. Silence allows you to choose the right moment instead of reacting emotionally. Reaction is expensive. Strategy is efficient. Winners don't move fast. They move precisely. Silence protects your plan. The more people know, the more they interfere intentionally or not. Opinions creep in. Doubt gets planted. Momentum slows. Silence keeps your execution clean. You don't have to defend unfinished ideas or explain progress that is meant to be measured yet. You stay focused on outcomes instead of conversations. There's also psychological power in silence. When you don't respond, you force others to reveal themselves. When you don't explain, you let assumptions expose limitations. Silence shifts pressure. It keeps you centered while others become restless. In negotiations, conflict, or competition, the one who can sit comfortably in silence usually has the advantage. Silence builds emotional strength. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every challenge deserves your energy. When you stop engaging in unnecessary battles, you conserve emotional resources for what actually matters. Peace becomes a tool, not a personality trait. Calm decisions consist. NTLI outperform emotional ones. Silence is also humility in action. It acknowledges that growth is ongoing. You don't speak from ego, you act from purpose. You let results mature before you display them. This kind of restraint separates builders from performers. Performers need attention. Builders need time. Weakness is loud because it's insecure. Strength is quiet because it's certain. The strongest moves are often invisible until they're reversible. By the time people hear you, the work is already done. Silence is not passive. It is active patience. It is disciplined focus. It is knowing that your future doesn't need to be explained in advance. It needs to be executed. When you adopt silence as a strategy, you stop reacting and start positioning. You let actions speak, timing work, and results land with impact. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Discipline beats motivation because motivation is emotional and emotions are unreliable. Motivation shows up when things feel good, when progress is visible, and when energy is high. Discipline shows up when none of that is present. It doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. That's why discipline wins in the long run, because long-term success doesn't care about short-term feelings. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for inspiration, confidence, or the right mood, but progress doesn't wait. Life doesn't pause until you feel motivated. Discipline understands this. It moves first and let confidence catch up later. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. Motivation is loud and exciting, but it's inconsistent. It comes in waves and disappears without warning. Discipline is quiet and repetitive. It's boring, structured, and predictable. And that's exactly why it works. Small disciplined actions done daily will always outperform bursts of motivation. Effort followed by long periods of inactivity. Discipline creates identity. When you repeatedly do what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you start to trust yourself. That self-trust becomes confidence. Motivation tries to hype you up. Discipline proves to you that you are capable. Proof is stronger than hype. There will be days when motivation is absent, days when progress feels invisible, days when quitting feels reasonable. Discipline carries you through those days. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't justify excuses. It executes the plan. This is how systems are built and how habits compound. Discipline also removes decision fatigue. When your actions are scheduled and structured, you don't waste mental energy choosing whether or not to act. The decision has already been made. You simply follow through. That clarity frees your mind for higher level thinking instead of constant internal debate. Motivation seeks comfort. Discipline accepts discomfort as part of growth. Growth requires pressure, repetition, and resistance. Discipline leans into that reality instead of avoiding it. It understands that temporary discomfort is the price of permanent progress. Over time, discipline produces results. Results reinforce belief. Belief fuels consistency. This cycle is sustainable. Motivation alone cannot create it because motivation depends on external stimulation. Discipline depends on internal standards. The most successful people are not the most motivated. They are the most consistent. They don't rely on feelings to dictate behavior. They rely on systems. They show up even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Discipline beats motivation because discipline builds something motivation never can. Momentum that doesn't need excitement to continue. Results are the loudest language because they require no explanation. Words invite debate, but results end conversations. You can argue with opinions, question intentions, and dismiss promises, but you cannot deny outcomes that are visible and undeniable. Results speak in a way that cuts through noise, emotion, and skepticism. They stand on their own. Most people try to talk their way into respect, recognition, or credibility. They explain their plans, defend their choices, and justify their position. But explanation is often a substitute for execution. Talking feels productive because it creates the illusion of progress, yet nothing changes until results appear. Results don't need hype. They don't need persuasion. They simply exist. When you have results, you don't need to prove yourself. Need for validation disappears. You're no longer dependent on approval or agreement because evidence is already present. Confidence becomes natural, not forced. Silence becomes comfortable because your work has already spoken on your behalf. Results also change how people treat you. The same people who doubted you begin to listen. The same voices that questioned your direction start asking for advice. Not because you talk louder, but because outcomes shifted the dynamic. Results rearrange hierarchy without confrontation. There's a reason people respect finishers more than talkers. Finishing requires discipline, patience, and follow through. It demands that you stay committed when excitement fades and challenges appear. Results represent all the unseen effort, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices, and consistency that no one applauded at the time. A depth is felt even if it's never explained. Results remove the need for defense. You don't argue when you're winning. You don't justify when you're improving. You don't chase recognition when progress is obvious. Results create a quiet authority that words can never manufacture. They also protect your peace. When you let results speak, you stop engaging in unnecessary debates. You conserve energy. You stay focused. You understand that time spent proving is time stolen from building. Results allow you to opt out of noise entirely. Most importantly, results build internal certainty. You don't just convince others, you convince yourself. Each outcome becomes proof of your capability. That proof compounds into confidence. And that confidence fuels bigger action. This is how momentum is created. In the end, people may forget what you said, doubt what you promised, or misunderstand your intentions. But they will always remember what you produced. Results leave a record. They tell the story without narration. Results are the loudest language because they don't ask to be heard. They are heard automatically. 2026 is a separation year. The gap between intention and execution will finally become impossible to hide. For years, people have been talking about what they want to do, who they want to become, and how serious they are about change. But talk has a shelf life. Eventually, time demands evidence. 2026 is that demand. This is the year where habits expose people. The routines you kept, the discipline you avoided, the excuses you tolerated, all of it shows up in your results. There will be a clear difference between those who use time as an asset and those who wasted it waiting for the right moment. The right moment doesn't arrive in 2026. It reveals who was already prepared. Separation doesn't happen loudly. It happens quietly, daily, and consistently. It happens when some people wake up early to build while others scroll. When some choose discomfort for growth while others choose comfort for relief. The difference isn't talent or intelligence, it's standards. What you tolerate becomes your ceiling. And 2026 exposes ceilings fast. This year separates people who are addicted to motivation from people who are committed to systems. Motivation fades. Systems compound. The ones who relied on excitement will stall when things get repetitive. The ones who built structure will keep moving when no one is cheering. Over time, that consistency creates distance, and distance creates separation. 2026 also separates identity. Some people still see themselves as almost there, always preparing, always learning, always planning. Others step fully into ownership. They stop asking for permission. They stop waiting to feel ready. They operate from responsibility instead of potential. That shift alone creates a massive divide. There will be fewer explanations this year. Life will move faster. Opportunities will reward readiness, not intentions. The people who stayed focused will seem like they suddenly leveled up. In reality, they've been quietly stacking disciplined days while others were distracted by noise. This is also a separation of circles. Not everyone can go where you're going. Some relationships are built on shared stagnation, not shared growth. As your standards rise, comfort-based connections naturally fall away. This isn't cruelty, it's alignment. Growth always rearranges environments. In 2026, excuses expire faster. Blame sounds weaker. Complaints lose sympathy. The world responds to outcomes, not reasons. Those who adapt, learn, and execute will rise. Those who repeat the same patterns will feel left behind, and for the first time, they won't be able to pretend they don't know why. Separation is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It clarifies who you are, what you value, and how serious you really are about your future. You won't need to announce which side you're on. Your results will do that for you. 2026 is a separation year, not because the world changed, but because time finally told the truth. 2026 doesn't require louder voices, it demands stronger character. This is the year you stop negotiating with distractions and start honoring your potential with action. You've learned that noise is expensive, privacy is powerful, silence is strategic, discipline is superior, results speak. And time separates the serious from the casual. So don't announce your moves. Don't explain your process. Don't argue with opinions that don't pay your bills or build your future. Protect your focus. Commit to the work. Execute in silence. Let 2026 be the year your growth becomes undeniable, not because you talked about it, but because you lived it. And when the results arrive, they won't ask for permission to be noticed. They'll speak for you.